What's up, everybody? Welcome into the Week 7 edition of Game Theory Thursday NFL DFS. I'm your host, Ben Hostler. I'm joined by Matt and Bales this week. No Anthony, which means the people of YouTube will not tilt in the comments at his phone going off because it is impossible. I've never seen someone's phone go off like this guy. Or maybe he just has the volume on max or something, but I don't know. It's crazy. But we should have a smooth pod today with no Anthony on here, no cell phone issues. We have a juicy slate. I think it's kind of chalkier for cash, which I think for the game theory and for tournaments should make it a pretty fun slate. There's a lot of high over-unders, which we were kind of talking about before we get on here. So be sure to check out all of our free content, dfskarma.com. Bales, I know your articles are already up. Mine will be up on Friday afternoon/evening. We have some other free content as well up on the site. Obviously, all of our free podcasts and streams as well. So we're going to jump right into things. First game we're going to talk about is the Packers and Texans over-under 57, massive over-under. Matt, I'm going to start with you. I think that, so we had this weird situation on Thursday afternoon where we thought the Seattle and Arizona game was not going to be on the main slate because it got moved. Looks like it is going to be included on the main slate now. So if that game was off, I think even more ownership would have got pushed to this game because I think there's a ton of good spots. Obviously, I think there's going to be a ton of points scored. I think it can easily go over 57. I honestly expect it to go over 57. I don't know if you disagree with that, but how are you attacking this game, Matt?
Yeah, everything checks out here. I mean, it's a great game. Pace is going to be really, really nice. I think it's a really kind of a get-right spot for Green Bay. They just looked brutal last week going down to Florida and facing that like pretty much elite defense in Tampa. They're getting pretty much an opposite defense. This defense is bottom three in DVOA versus the run versus the best last week in Tampa. So obviously a really popular play is going to be Aaron Jones, and I don't see how you don't play a favorite running back. Granted, it's on the road, but it's in a dome. 30-point team total. This is the type of game you want, and I think we're now learning and we're getting smarter about Aaron Jones, and there's not the concern about this timeshare, situation with Williams, and because the snaps are going to be cut a little bit, but he gets all the money touches. He gets a ton of touches in general and targets. Aaron Jones, I think, obviously is a really clear play. I don't think that's anything that interesting to say. And keep in mind, I mean, you look at not just the rushing, but the targets. I mean, he's second in the league in red zone targets, that being Aaron Jones. And they're still down. Lazard. So, of course, Davonte Adams is a great play. The way I'm building lineups, I'm going to play Adams with my Rodgers teams, maybe with a couple Watson teams, but I don't have a ton of Adams going into this, which, might be a mistake. I am targeting more so, Aaron Jones here, but I like the data a lot around Deshaun Watson. And I'm doing something kind of weird, and I hope it doesn't blow up in my face, but what I'm mostly doing this week in my Deshaun Watson stacks, which might even be cash for me, is I'm playing a lot of Fells and Cooks. And Fuller's my boy for sure. He's also their best player by far. He's got all the best, target and market share of air yards and everything you look at. However, Jair Alexander is a real thing this year. Every year there's a few guys that just really shut people down on the perimeter. And I don't see a lot of data on him shadowing Fuller. I mean, he's been putting a shadow on here and there. I'm not so sure it's going to be a full-on shadow, but I'm really excited about Brandon Cooks and Fells. Fells is playing 80+% of the snaps. It looks like Akins is going to be out again. So I've been on the Fells train for quite a while. And there's a lot of cool data on Deshaun Watson facing zone defenses. So, Packers are playing zone in the third highest rate in the league. And all of Watson's numbers just skyrocket when he plays zone D. Could hurt his running floor a little bit, but I love Watson in this game.
Yeah, Bales, I know you had written up Adams in one of your articles, so you can go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Matt pretty much hit it on the head. There's so much to like in this game. Like, you can obviously go either quarterback. Aaron Jones is going to be super chalky. He's just a really good play. Obviously, Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks. I don't have an issue with either of them. I like what Matt was saying about Cooks, and if Akins is out, I agree with Fells. If Akins is back, though, I'm not sure how much Fells I want, but I'm still not really going to shy away from it if my teams go there. For me, though, Davonte Adams is such a good volume play. We saw week 1, he played the full game. He saw 17 targets. Last week, he got benched late because they were getting killed. He still had 10 targets. And then the game against the Lions, they got up really early. I think he only played like 50% of the snaps, but the 3 targets I don't think is indicative of a close game. It's more or less, it was a blowout. They didn't have to throw. I don't know about you guys, but I don't see anyone on Houston slowing down Davonte Adams. So I feel like he's a really good tournament play just because we know that the ownership's going to Aaron Jones. And last year, if you look, Davonte Adams was a major part of the red zone. He hasn't really been that this year. I think he has 3 red zone targets in 3 games, but it's going to go up. I promise you that. And Aaron Jones will continue to get red zone looks. That's without a question. They love him in the red zone, but he's not really going to end the season, top 2 in the NFL in red zone targets. I would imagine not. So I feel like they're going to really start going to Davonte Adams at some point, and I'm guessing sooner rather than later. And then the final guy is David Johnson, who week 1, he looked kind of like he was back. Now he kind of looks cooked again. But Green Bay gives up a ton of fantasy points to running backs, and they let them catch a ridiculous amount of balls. Not that Houston throws to David Johnson a ton, but we could see a few extra catches this week. And he's only 5,300, so it's not like you're really going to pay up. And I mean, he could obviously just fall into the end zone. So I don't really hate David Johnson. Not going to be the guy that I really prioritize in this game, but I think that more or less the majority of the players here that are going to see big snaps are really good options.
Yeah, you guys crushed it. It's a clear game stack spot. Neither of these teams can get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, which I think is big. The defense doesn't matter. Crowd took a hit last week because that Bucs defense is nasty, and they definitely had an effect on that game, which is something that we kind of pivoted off as the week went on. Like by the time the weekend came, I had talked up that Green Bay Tampa Bay game so much during the week, but by the time Saturday came and I did final thoughts, I was more on the Atlanta Minnesota game because of the defensive situation there. But yeah, this is a clear game stack. I love the Packers stack because it's so heavily concentrated between Jones and Adams. You can just easily pair them with Rodgers. I agree with Matt. Like Fells, I think is interesting because I thought we were going to get some cheaper tight end plays, but now it looks like we're not going to. So Fells might have to be like the top punt, I think, unless you're counting some other guys that are around 4K on DraftKings. But I agree with that. I just love the stack. And Bales, I think the DJ call is interesting. He's up there in terms of usage. Like I think top 5, top 6 at running back in terms of just overall usage. And I mean, he's priced right near some other guys that are going to get ownership. Like he's priced around Swift, Justin Jackson. So I think it's, he could be an interesting pivot in, arguably the best game of the slate. So I think it's a clear, really good game that you want exposure to in all formats. The next game we're going to talk about, Seahawks Cardinals late night hammer. Throw it back to the old days when we get the Sunday night game included. This is going to be a really good game as well. I love what Matt pointed out, how good Watson is against zone coverage. Might be one of the best quarterbacks in the league in zone coverage. Kyler also has historically, I mean his career is only a season and a half long, but historically has been much better against zone coverage than man coverage. Which is interesting because he actually had some decent rushing totals. I know we talk about man coverage being better for rushing quarterbacks, but he actually had a couple decent rushing games against Seattle. He had a touchdown on the ground against them last year. So I think this is a really good spot for Kyler, and I obviously with how the Seahawks have been running their offense this season, you won't have to convince me to play them. So, Bales, I'll start with you first here. Who are you playing in this game?
Yeah, this is kind of tough. I mean, Kyler, DeAndre Hopkins, absolutely no issues with either. Seattle's giving up, the most passing yards per game. It's going to come down at some point, but for now, I mean, it's just a really good spot on that side as well. I don't have any issues with Christian Kirk. More GPPs, don't play him in cash, but Kenyon Drake's the guy that, it's kind of funny that we all know he has the ridiculous upside that he flashed on Monday night. So it's not even like a slate that anyone got to use him. I don't see that happening again against Seattle. Their run defense is a little too good, unlike Dallas, one of the worst in the NFL at this point. And it's kind of weird that he's cheaper than Chase Edmonds, but that's a situation I'm avoiding. And I'll let one of you two talk about Russell Wilson, Metcalf, and Lockett. I mean, they're pretty obvious. And if you're just solely asking me, I'm going to take DK Metcalf over Tyler Lockett. But I really want to point out Chris Carson. He kind of has changed his game up enough that he can't get taken off the field based on game script anymore. Like before, if Seattle got down early, they weren't really going to throw him the ball that much. So you would have someone else come in, like J.D. McKissick, and they would play the passing downs, which was basically every down. Now Chris Carson can just play. I believe he has 4 red zone targets. He's caught 3 touchdowns this year. He's been really solid as a receiver. And if they're going to give him 15 plus carries against Arizona's defense, he's going to find quite a bit of success. He's just kind of, if you're not getting DK or Lockett from the touchdown, you're most likely getting it from Chris Carson. There's only a few options, like similar to Green Bay, that are going to score the touchdowns. And I can't imagine with the quarterbacks and wide receivers in this game that anyone is really looking at Chris Carson. So I think he's a really, really solid tournament pivot.
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, that's a great call. I mean, obviously the team total is enormous. It's almost 30. They're a favorite. This is the same story as Green Bay. You got a guy who's getting all the money looks, all the money touches. I think, Hyde is still beat up a little bit. But, I mean, just think of it. It's really the same thing. They both have a 30-point total. They're both 3.5-point road favorites. And they both have a main running back who's really pretty talented and gets all the money looks. But Aaron Jones is going to get all the ownership, and no one's touching Chris Carson in general. And I think that's probably a mistake. It's a great call. It's sometimes you got to just step back and say, okay, why would I not play him? So a couple things. I mean, I think it's a really interesting thing this week with DK and Lockett. And there's always jokes in the Discord about like not knowing who to choose. And so AC asked, who I'm playing out of those two. And I think it's interesting, just price differential on the sites. FanDuel, there's hardly a gap at all between the two. It's maybe $100. And then there's a pretty sizable gap, 600 or 700 on DK. So it makes it a little bit more tough. But you got a lot of conflicting things. So you have, in general, kind of a dome game on the turf. You can think kind of a shiftier guy like Lockett would make a good bit of sense there. But Lockett also has this weird home road splits. Twice as many touchdowns at home versus the road. He's played a lot of games. I know that's not really stable as far as statistical analysis, but it is interesting to an extent. He's come off a couple of bad games, had the bye week to rest. There's a lot of things going on. I like to look at who Arizona has faced. They face like no one as far as quarterbacks. They face the best quarterback they face probably is Stafford, and Galladay is a very similar archetype of wide receiver as DK Metcalf. Big, strong, fast, good body control, big downfield targets. And, Arizona is not generating much pass rush. We have Seattle off a bye week rest and a short week on Arizona. So I would hope that the trench battle is on the side of Seattle, and they're able to give some time and protection for those routes to develop for DK, because you have an ADOT, average depth of target, of over 16 for DK Metcalf and about 8 or 9 for Tyler Lockett. So you have much deeper shots, but it's really difficult. I'm kind of really struggling with that. I'm leaning just going towards what I believe. There goes a light. What I believe the better player to be, which is DK. And then the only one thing I want to throw to you, Ben, because here's what I'm struggling with Kyler Murray. Like the rushing floor is there. I mean, his floor is unreal. Look at his game log. But like you said, zone D, maybe that's not the best. They got they got Adams coming back this week for Seattle. They're probably their best pure run defender at strong safety. Adams is back. They're rested. It's a zone D. Can he really run that much? I'm kind of struggling with that. And I want to hear your thoughts, Ben, on Christian Kirk against that kind of keep it in front of you zone D when he's been stretching it out. I mean, Seattle doesn't have much of a pass rush, so there's so many conflicting things. How are you sorting out the Arizona side and the passing offense, Ben?
Yeah, this game is really weird. I was talking about it in Discord earlier. Like when I thought we lost the game, I was like, I wasn't planning on playing Kyler in my main team, so I was hoping that they kept this game on the main slate because I didn't want his ownership. He is going to be owned, so I didn't want his ownership to go elsewhere. at least in cash. But for tournaments, yeah, you nailed it. Kirk is an interesting one. So people have this like negative connotation with Christian Kirk, and this is gone. This is even like in the season long streaks. He was like a trendy pick last year. Didn't have a bad year at all. Like had a good solid year, and then nobody wanted him this year, obviously because they got DeAndre Hopkins. But if you look at it, he was kind of banged up for a little bit earlier this season, but he's been more consistent than you think. Still has almost a quarter of the team's air yards. That could be inflated a little bit because they do pass so much. But I mean, the upside is obviously there. We saw him. Obviously, he mixed in with a little rushing touchdown last week. But yeah, I mean, I think
Yeah.
he's a fine play. If he's going to get any ownership at all, though, that's the exact type of player I'm completely fine.
Is Kirk
Just being
playable in cash, do you think? Is Christian Kirk a cash play potentially at this price?
yeah, I think I would say yes. If Deontay Johnson plays, I think I would probably rather play him. He's cheaper on DraftKings. He's 4,200. Like
Yeah.
I would probably rather play him, but I don't think Kirk is a bad play. He just doesn't really have like I don't think he has the floor of like a Deontay Johnson type player, in my
Look
opinion.
look at Seattle. I mean, Seattle gives up the most plays per game in the NFL, and Arizona goes fast. So they're already giving up the most plays. Arizona wants to play fast. There could be tons of elevated play volume here. Seattle has no pass rush. It's one of those things. I mean, Seattle's also given up the most 20-yard completions in the league, and they already had their bye week. So
Yeah.
I think that seeing some Christian Kirk bombs could probably pay off. So I don't know, man. I like Christian Kirk's not a guy you want to click. I mean, last week was weird. He had 2 catches and 2 touchdowns and whatever. But like they try to get him involved. They threw him a 2-yard touchdown pass. Like they want to get him in
Yeah.
the mix. So I don't know, man. I'm right now. I mean, I have him in cash. I have him in my main GPP as well. But we'll see if I can actually stick to it.
Yeah, he's definitely more consistent than people give him credit for when you actually dig into the numbers. And I think Adams being back sets it up to be more of like a pass funnel spot than it already is, which is great. And on the opposite side, which you pointed out, Arizona's going to struggle to get pressure on Russ, and they're down Chandler Jones as well, which is literally
Right.
that's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. So that's a huge downgrade for them when they're already not good in that aspect. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, this game is just going to be so good. Like I feel like you're going to have pieces here. And Bales, I'm gonna make a note right now to put Chris Carson in my main tournament lineup to get some low owned exposure to this game on my main GPP. I like that call a lot. We're gonna head over to the third game, which is Falcons Lions over under 55. I'm praying this game. Like I think right now both of the 2 games we just talked about are gonna be a little bit higher owned than this one, and I really like this game, so I hope it stays that way. This is such the perfect spot. Stafford let everyone down last week against Jacksonville. Nobody wants to play him. Everyone, like I see people tilting on Twitter, like this Lions offense sucks, man. Like Matt Stafford sucks. Like I don't want to play him. I mean, they just ran down Jacksonville's throat the whole game, right? He didn't need to do anything. Atlanta still gives up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. They've allowed the most passing touchdowns. Really good spot. And I pointed out on the live stream, like this Falcons offense is a completely different animal when Julio plays. They actually were able to put up points, jumped out to a big league on Minnesota. I trust them to put up points more than I do the Jaguars. So I think this is definitely going to be a shootout. Matt, I'll start with you here because I know you love Julio. Where are you going in this game?
Yeah. This is so hard for me, man. Julio, my hometown hero, Galladay. It's just like, oh boy. Last week wasn't what you're supposed to expect though. Like the production is going to oscillate a lot between Ridley and Julio. And, we saw the second touchdown from Julio kind of be one of those broken plays, and someone just like forgot to tackle him on Minnesota. And he's like, oh, okay. And he starts running and he just, gallops all the way to the to the end zone. It was one of those like, oh, really? Granted, the first touchdown was fair and square and he got it. But it's just really tough, on a week by week basis to ascertain who's a better play. But I think in general, this is an amazing spot. Lions have no pass rush. Bottom 3 in the league in pressure, going on the road, against Atlanta, and you're going to see the best out of Galladay in this game. And I want to hit on that mostly because he was chalk last week. Like he was top 2 owned wide receiver last week,
Yep.
and Jacksonville didn't have to throw, and and there's that risk. There's really not that risk here. Going to Atlanta, I think without a doubt, Atlanta's going to put up a lot of points. They got a 29-point team total. When you force Stafford, and I should say when you force Patricia, who's terrible, when you force him to call, passing plays, since that's the most efficient way to score points in the NFL and on our team, he won't put it in Adrian Peterson's belly 18 times, and we'll actually have a fun game and we'll have a beer and watch a football game, man. But like, if you force Patricia to let his team throw, Galladay's going to destroy this team. And the back end of the secondary on Atlanta is brutalized. I think Keanu O'Neal's back, but like Galladay is one of those, like, I think like a top 3 body control, deep threat guy in the league. You basically have him, you have D-Hop. They're probably the best too, as far as pure body control in the air, catching balls. I love Galladay. I think he's going to be overlooked. You look at all the guys around him. You have Julio, you got Ridley, you got D Adams above him, and D-Hop. And I think he's going to go overlooked. And it's not going through Marvin Jones, man. It's not happening.
Dude. I feel so bad for the man, dude. He's just like dust. Like the fall off was so sudden.
And exactly. And everyone wants to be like tricky. Like, is this the week? It's like, no, man, it's probably not the week. Like, you fall off and it's kind of it. So like, the game environment's perfect, but it's like, I'm not putting money towards Marvin Jones and just hoping that something weird happens. Because now, in my opinion, that would be strange if he just broke out and had a big game. What's most likely to happen as far as a range of outcomes is like what's happened in the past, and in the past, decent sample size. You go back to last year and it was starting to get ugly. So anyways, I'm prioritizing Galladay. I got to do a lot more work on Julio versus Ridley. Of course, my bias wants me to just jam in Julio, but I got to be a little bit more pragmatic about it and look at it. What I want to ask you about, because I know it's nasty, but like, dude, Gurley's getting
dude, don't say it.
I know, and I say he's dusted. I'm never going to play him again. But hear me out. Like, the Lions are horrible, right? He's been getting 20-plus touches. He gets all the money touches. They still want to hand it off. This is not a new coaching, crew here. It really isn't. It's the same guys. It's just they got rid of the top dog. Like, I don't know, man. We let up a lot of production off the ground, a lot of rushing touchdowns. Bales, tell me you're with me on Gurley.
I hate Todd Gurley, but yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, all right. First of all, if you play him, it's got to be on FanDuel, right? Like, if you play him, it's got to be FanDuel. Okay, you could sell me on that. Bales, before you talk, though,
he's a home favorite, 30-point total, $6,600 running back, getting all the red zone. I don't know, man. I think he's
like a good bad defense against.
Arguably the worst run defense. Like, we talk about Houston, but like Detroit is arguably the worst run defense, so I understand it. Yeah. But Bales, before you go, when Marvin Jones was getting outplayed by Quintez Cephas, I knew he was done. Like, I knew, I'm like, okay, this is all I need to see. But Bales, go ahead.
That's so sad.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with Matt on this one, because last week I sent in Discord, like a few hours before the games, I sent why are we not talking about Julio? If he's healthy, this dude's breaking the slate, in which he did. And I plugged him in onto a Tennessee Houston stack for the 1 p.m. and to turn $12 into $5,000, which is pretty nice return. But
money.
it just makes you want to play him. You know what I mean? And I feel like I'm also sitting here where I'm like, yeah, Julio, he's 200 cheaper. Let me just go with that. But I agree with Matt. You need to think about it. And quite frankly, Kenny Golladay might be the money option in this entire game. Outside of who basically everyone talked about it, I have no problems with TJ Hawkinson. I'm not going to get super excited about him or anything, but Atlanta's really bad against the tight end. Hawkinson's only 5,000, which, I mean, it's up there a little bit, but it's nothing ridiculous. And then, I don't know if you guys know what to make of DeAndre Swift at this point. Like, do we even slightly, if he was getting 20 touches, I'm all in this week. But do we even slightly trust him to get more than 5 carries, honestly?
Not with this coaching staff, man. And like, it just doesn't, I mean, it feels pretty fishy. Like, we didn't even say the word Kenyon Drake, and he had 160 and 2 touchdowns. We didn't mention his name, and he's cheap. I just feel like it's because it's a fishy play, right? I feel like it's a little fishy to play Swift here. I mean, he's good. And he obviously Atlanta's given up the second most, receptions to running backs, only behind, Carolina. But me personally, maybe I have a bias because it's my home team and I just hate the coaching staff. But I can't trust them to be smart enough to just keep feeding it, to Swift. I don't know, man.
My big thing was they just give up so many receptions, and obviously, they're not going to throw the ball to Peterson. They're going to throw it to Swift, but I don't know.
The data we need to find is when trailing, snap percentage when trailing by certain amounts of points, because if they are indeed putting Swift on the field enough when they're trailing, you could see a lot more snaps his way rather than AP, or even carry on. So yeah, that's something we can look into further. But I think, it might be a good play.
I'm cool with Swift in tournaments. Like if you want to throw him in a line stack, I think he's the pass catching guy, right? So I think he sets up better in the spot. Atlanta's actually been kind of stingy against the run, so I don't think this is an AP spot. But you guys have given me some confirmation bias because I told Anthony on Tuesday, whatever day we did the cash process, I'm like, dude, I'm forcing Kenny Galladay into my main lineup on both sites. Like I told him that straight up. So you guys have confirmed that. I mean, he's been getting there without really, like he hasn't had a big game and he still had 16, 16, 17 DraftKings points in his 3 games. Like he hasn't had a big game and that's been his floor.
Exactly. If you force Stafford to throw a bunch, you can have an eruption game from Kenny. You can have a 160-2 type of game, but we haven't, really had that type of environment yet of a game. So it could be enormous.
Yeah, and I made the mental note last week. I saw him, he got tackled like at the 2 or 3 that one time on that screen. I just made the mental note. I'm like, if he doesn't score here, no one's going to play him next week. So I got to be sure that I play him because of this exact happening. But yeah, love this game. Stafford, Galladay, I don't know, Julio, Ridley, I feel like I just play whoever's lower owned. Last week it was Julio, so I went with him. I don't know who that will be this week. We'll have to see, but it's a great game. Last game we're going to talk about before we head to some positional talk is Panthers Saints. I don't know what to make of this game because I think I don't even get me started on the Saints, right? Just the whole Taysom Hill thing. It's tilting to roster their players because then you have to watch it's just tilting to even roster their players. And I don't think this game is as good as the 3 that we just talked about, but there are some quality plays here for all formats. We obviously have the big news that Thomas didn't practice today. It's Thursday night. It kind of looks like he's not going to play to me, honestly. It's never good when you get added to the injury report like later on in the week and then you start missing practice, right? So I kind of think he might not play. So Bales, I'll start with you. How are you attacking this game? Like I don't think this game is as good as the other 3, but obviously, still a 51 over under, so there's going to be some points to be scored here.
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, I know for sure if Michael Thomas is out, even if Michael Thomas isn't out, you're just going Alvin Kamara. If Thomas is out, Kamara just is going to be the hammer that everyone uses as he should be. This is just the perfect matchup for him. He's going to get all kinds of targets. Everything is going to work his way. Outside of that, though, I'm not sure if I even want any New Orleans because they're over 7-point favorites, right? So you're not really going to be looking at like Emmanuel Sanders getting 14 targets again. They're probably just going to run the ball. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know if I have literally ever played Latavius Murray in my life.
I was gonna ask. No Latavius and a little like a 3 max.
Yeah, no, keep me out of that. Not a chance. There's literally, I kid you not, there's a 0% chance I'm playing Latavius Murray.
2 touchdowns incoming.
Yeah, he's
I guarantee it.
You've just put the nail in the coffin, Bills. Thanks for
I just got a sick feeling the way you said that.
I know, right? It's like now you gotta play it. You gotta like throw them in. Like if you play like a 1 p.m. only or something, since apparently you crush those slates.
When you say 0.0, you're that's it. Dude.
Yeah,
ain't happening. You guys should play him because usually that's when they go off. But
I will.
On the other side, like. You're cool with Mike Davis, really, because he's getting the McCaffrey usage. Bridgewater, I'm fine with because the Saints have been bad against quarterbacks. And then it's relatively clear it's Anderson Moore as the 1-2. Anderson's the safer guy. Moore comes with, in my opinion, more or less the same upside, maybe slightly less. He's just not nearly as safe as Anderson because generally he's not going to be seeing the same amount of targets or red zone looks. So honestly, I don't know at this point what to do with this game outside of Alvin Kamara. I'm really hoping that one of you two can kind of talk me into where makes the most sense.
Well, it's not I mean, you don't have to play everyone, right? You don't have to go crazy. I think that, New Orleans coming off a bye week rest, at home with a very good offensive line against the worst run defense. Kamara really is an elite play, and I think he becomes unfadable if Michael Thomas is out, which is kind of unfortunate because I won't let myself not play him. I'll just play him, in every lineup if Michael Thomas is out because the spot is already that good. But what I think really could help for sure is that it's going to put Carolina into passing mode. And yeah, they've been and they're kind of a pass funnel anyways. They have a really good run defense. And they have the typical weapons that we know. You mentioned Anderson and more. And of course, Davis out the backfield. I think last week was an aberration. Chicago battled him up a little bit, but he's going to get all the red zone looks. He's going to get all the goal line looks. And I think that we could see a bit of a big game out of Teddy Goatwater, as the Discord calls him. And he's coming back, to the Superdome to play with his former team. And I don't know, man. I do have one of my main GPPs right now is a Kamara team with Goatwater, with both Robbie and DJ Moore. Just trying to, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just pick one receiver and then throw Davis in because he can certainly, do it through the air as well. So I'm kind of toying with that a little bit and see if I start to lean any more on Robbie or Moore. But I think it's sneaky. I think that, again, I always talk about range of outcomes. There's absolutely a range of outcome where, you force Bridgewater actually throw quite a bit, and he's got good weapons, and this kind of game starts, pinballing back and forth. I don't love Breeze. This year I've had real concerns about him all year. He is not who he used to be. Visible frustrations on the field when he's, skipping it into the dirt. But he should have plenty of time to pass. Carolina's down two of their best edge rushers, and but who's he throwing it to? Again, if there's no Michael Thomas, it's not like we're going to go out there and play Manny Sanders or really even Jared Cook. So it just kind of solidifies, Kamara for me. What about you, Ben? What are you looking at in this game?
Yeah, obviously love Kamara. I like both Moore and Anderson in this game as kind of like one-offs. You can play Teddy if you want. I don't hate that at all. I'm a Teddy fan, so I won't ever say no.
He's cheap, man. He's super cheap.
Yeah, he's really cheap. So maybe so we could just, you throw that stack in there. Like Teddy to those two will be low owned, right? So then you could comfortably play Kamara and some other chalkier pieces.
I would bet anything that Teddy outproduces Drew Brees in fantasy points. Like, I don't know. To me, it seems
I would take that. I actually
I agree.
Yeah, so DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are now, they have the same opportunity rating for the season. So it's literally like you're just throwing, like you have no idea which one's going to go off. I don't know. I like both of them. I think you can double stack if you want. Over under how many Taysom Hill touchdowns are we seeing though? That's my question.
God, that's so tilting. Yeah, man. I don't know. That makes me feel.
It's the only thing that the only stain on this game is that that first drive there he's gonna run out on the field. The camera will zoom in on him like it's like some new thing. It's like, dude,
they get so excited.
I'm so happy it's not prime time.
He's out there blowing people up on like kickoff and kick return.
I know
he's an animal, man.
I know.
Like, you gotta love the guy, right?
And he's making $16 million this year. It's crazy.
Is he really? No, he's not.
Yeah. My favorite. My favorite stat. I don't remember who brought this up. It was someone on national TV, so I'm sorry for forgetting who. It was someone like on Fox Sports 1 or something. But had the Patriots signed Le'Veon Bell, they would have paid Cam Newton and Le'Veon Bell for the entire season what Taysom Hill makes in a single game. Like, it's just hilarious stuff, man. Like, you can't even make that up. But
he's fully goated. Yeah, but to your point, Benny, and you always remind me of this, like on FanDuel, like there's real risk. Like, look at red zone carries rather, for Saints. Alvin Kamara 14, Lat Murray 10, Taysom Hill 5. So you go inside. Think about this: you go inside the 5-yard line, and Kamara Murray Hill goes 5-2-2. So it's like, okay, it's 50-50 inside the 5 if it's going to be Kamara, Lat Murray, or Hill, and that's just like so tilting. inside the 5, like let your franchise running back fall in, man. I don't know.
Yeah, it's super annoying, but I'm so glad it's not prime time, so I don't have to watch it. I'll just have Red Zone on, so I'll just till whenever the touchdown happens. But
Yeah.
we're gonna head over talk some positional plays before we head out of here. Starting at quarterback, so we're gonna go cash game plays, and then we'll circle back and do tournament plays. I think cash game quarterback for me, I think it's Kyler. I think there's 4 guys, man. I never have 4 guys in my cash game pool, but I think it's Kyler, Deshaun Watson, Justin Herbert, and Joe Burrow on DraftKings only, where he's 5,500. I think all 4 of those guys could make my way into their lineup. Matt, do you disagree with that?
Yeah, I do a little bit. I think that Herbert shouldn't be cash playable on DK. I mean, it's literally $400 to get up to Watson,
Okay.
and I think they're a world apart, and as far as like range of outcomes and their game environments. Like again, we could see Herbert. He's in the Stafford spot of last week. They could just put it in Kelly's belly, 25 times, or I guess Jackson. And I could see Minshew just crapping, the bed and not putting up many points and forcing Herbert to throw. He's very efficient, and Jacksonville's giving up the highest completion percentage, in the league. But I don't think he should be considered cash playable. I think he should be looking. I probably would prefer Stafford over Herbert. Think about it. Stafford's in a way better game. He's got really good, good weapons too. I think Stafford's a similar play to Herbert. He's $100 more. He's a much better play. I'd be looking at mostly Watson and Murray. And if I had to, I guess I would drop to Stafford, but it's like $300. I'll just find it to get the Deshaun Watson. The guy's he's lighting it up these last couple games ever since he got rid of Bill O'Brien.
Bills?
I somewhat agree with Matt to the point where Watson and Kyler Murray are like my main 2, but I don't agree necessarily with, if you were going to tell me that you were going Justin Herbert, I wouldn't try to talk you off of it. I'm completely fine with it. He's just, I would rather personally get up to Deshaun Watson myself.
I think FanDuel you can. I think FanDuel Herbert you can make an argument because there's a bigger gap there, a much bigger gap. But on DK, I have a hard time clicking that, and not because of I don't think he's bad, but I think the game environment could get a little risky.
Yeah, so I don't disagree with you guys. Like I think the clear 2 for me are Kyler and Watson, but I just think I think Herbert. Herbert's been balling, man. I did not like this guy coming out of college, but I will respect what he has been doing, and he's been doing it against tough teams. So I think
He's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think but I completely agree. If you made a case for Stafford over him, I don't even disagree with that because I love Stafford this week. So I agree with that.
Yeah.
Running back, Matt, I know you alluded to the big 3 before we got on here, which I'm in full agreement with. I would love to jam in Kamara, Aaron Jones, and Kareem Hunt into my cash game build. As far as other people that are playable in cash, I think you could put Mike Davis in the conversation. I don't think I will play him, but I think he's definitely cash playable. And Justin Jackson for cheap, I do think if you wanted a cheap guy, I like to spend up at running backs, but I do think if he's going to be the lead back, you could look at him.
Yeah. I think Justin Jackson is a trap, but we'll see. I think that we're working off a 1-game sample size of the Jackson and Kelly.
I'm a Josh Kelly truther, so I hope you are correct.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think, but at the same point, I think that now that Ronald Jones is on the slate, I think you could absolutely.
Yeah, I overlooked that. That's a great call.
Thank
you for reminding me on that.
Yeah.
Ronald Jones, man.
Yeah, so
he's in play. I didn't even really think about it because I forgot they added that game.
So think about this, dude. Think about the disgustingly talented Tampa Bay defensive line. Think about the fact that Vegas is playing only backups on the O-line. Only backups. The entire offensive line is, which means you there's an argument to be made that no matter what you start every lineup with the Bucs defense. What do they got them priced at? I don't even see them on. Oh, they're 3,700. Not even that bad. But so dude, they don't want to give it to Fournette that much. Arians he's a tough coach to figure out. I've always had a hard time with Arians, but
it's that damn hat he wears, man. Games. It's that damn
hat.
Dude,
it's driver's hat. It's what are you from 1930, man? What you do? But no, I think that Rojo, just because the game script, it could get really, really gross, and you think, well, maybe they'll play the backup in Fournette. I don't know. I think they're just comfortable with Rojo. They gave him 23 carries last week and pretty much a blowout against Green Bay at home, and they didn't give Fournette any run. I think Rojo, if you had something that you really wanted to fit in, but what's the difference between him and Kareem? Like $600. So that might be tough to even make that
I would
argument.
rather play Kareem. I was going to ask, like, who would we play him over? I don't think you can play him over Jones.
I guess Rojo's a GPP play. He's a GPP play then, I suppose.
Yeah.
Him and Carson, and maybe I was going to say Singletary just to see Bale's face light up.
Yeah,
we're talking cash, like GPP. Would you
Singletary?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any real issues with him. I'm not going to prioritize him or anything, but like, if you tell me you're going to play Singletary, I'm not going to talk you off that ledge. He's probably not honestly going to make my pool. How much does he cost?
58.
I mean,
best game script ever, probably.
I know, but I feel like I would rather just play like Antonio Gibson for 800 cheaper.
No, you guys know who to play in that game, and it ain't Devin Singletary.
Oh, dude, just don't wait till we get to receivers. Anyways,
all right, yeah.
We did mention Swift for sure is another GPP play at running back for sure. We talked about him
for sure. Yeah. All right, receiver. Okay, cash receivers is tougher for me. I definitely think Adams is going to get ownership. I think that pairing Adams and Jones is a doable thing if you want to do it. I really like Kenny Golladay, which we hammered that in that game. I think Kenny Galladay's a really good play. I mean, where do you think the chalk is going to go, Matt? I think that, like I said, Deontay Johnson, if he's good to go, I think is going to be chalky on DK. I think Terry McLaurin at 58 could be pretty chalky. I think he's a really good play. This is his best matchup he's got the whole season. I mean, he's had a string of tough corners. Now he gets Dallas. I think he's a really good play at 5,800.
Yeah, I don't think receiver is going to be that chalky since they kept the Seattle and Arizona game. I don't want to play Deontay. I think that touchdown equity is so spread out in that Pittsburgh team. I mean, we could have a Juju game. We've been having Claypool games. We could certainly have a Connor game. You got Ebron with red zone touchdown equity. Deontay's back. James Washington had a long touchdown last week. Like, I don't know, man. Like, he's ungodly cheap. I know 4.2 is super cheap. I know he had that 10 and 13 targets in week 1 and 2. But like Ben's kind of like a D-gaffer, man. He doesn't care, man. He'll just like throw it to whoever's open and just chuck it and not really like game plan anything. So I don't want to play Deontay in cash if I can avoid it. I know the price is crazy low, but I just think that touchdown equity is so spread out there. And you're right. I mean, you mentioned McLaurin. I think he's going to be highly on. I think Keenan Allen, if he gets into full practice on Friday, certainly Keenan Allen's going to be really highly on. I mean, he's a target machine, top 3 route runner in the league, and a good matchup against the worst pass defense in the league, arguably. You got the boys in Seattle; they're going to garner ownership. I think plays that are not as chalky that I am considering in cash. We mentioned Christian Kirk. I think Deebo Samuel is cash playable as well. And
Debo's free on FanDuel for what it's worth.
He's free on. He's kind of free on. I mean, he's $5K on DK.
Yeah.
Right. So here's my theory on Debo. He's got an insanely low average depth of target, and they're kind of doing it as like an extension of the running game. And now Mostert is out. So now you got technically backup running backs, leading the rushing attack, and you got this, Debo doing end arounds, couple of game, short passes, and then they'll give him like shots in the red zone. So him and Kittle obviously is most. I know they don't pass a lot, and that's why I don't usually gravitate towards San Francisco plays. But like, I think Debo could be money. I think it would just set up for like a really high floor play, and I think even a higher floor than Deontay Johnson.
All right, Bales, before Matt, I'm going to ask about one more guy. This is like the vomit play that I've ever heard. Anthony brought this up. AJ Green. He actually had a big game. Dude, he had a big game last week. This Browns defense is not good.
Oh, are we game log watching now? Was that what
I know.
we're doing?
No. He's dust, but
he had a big game, man.
He did, dude. I don't want to play him. I'm just asking you. Like, who would you pick between him and Deontay? Because they're virtually the same price.
Deontay. I play Deontay.
Okay. Bales.
I know it sounds crazy that but yeah.
Go ahead.
I mean, I think you guys covered it. For what it's worth, Deontay over AJ Green, and you're not going to convince me to play cash AJ Green.
I'd play Brandon Cooks in cash, by the way, too. I forgot to mention him. I think he's playable in every format.
I think that's a good call.
He doesn't leave the field. Yeah, he doesn't leave the field. He's got the non-Jair Alexander matchup in a crazy, 57 on over-under game.
Yep.
I think you guys covered most. I think the only thing that I'll add is Julio and Calvin Ridley, whichever one you feel more comfortable with. I'm fine playing either one of them in cash, really.
Yeah.
I don't think, for what it's worth, I don't think, like, I would just play Galladay. But I mean, if you fall on it, I would be fine with that.
Would you guys play any of the Seattle guys in cash? It feels like weird if you don't.
No, okay, yeah. So FanDuel, DK, lock. I'm locking DK Metcalf in on FanDuel. 100%. Okay. He's too cheap. DraftKings, I think you would I think projections and I think the projections will like Tyler Lockett on DraftKings because he's so cheap, but he's the same price as Galladay. So if I'm forcing Galladay in, I'm not gonna be able to play Lockett too. So I'm probably just gonna have to make that decision. I don't know. I'll ride with my guys. I don't ever care about fading high owned guys in cash. I could care less, especially at receiver.
I know I'm bouncing around. I wanted to cover this though. If Bell doesn't even suit up, I mean, do we got to look at CEH in a tough matchup?
I was bracing.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to snow too, so little boost to the run game. That's such a good play. I was waiting for that one. Tight end though, dude, tight end's a mess. I don't spend up at tight end. I could care less about any of these guys at the top. Kelsey, great for tournaments. Kittle, great for tournaments, but not playing any of those guys in cash. I think from what I've seen, our projections, like Hooper, I think Hooper's going to get ownership. I'm not playing Hooper and Kareem Hunt on the same team. That is literally not happening. So I think you get Fells at 41. I mean, do you like Dalton Schultz at 39? Who else are you going to play? There's really no one other than Fells that I feel comfortable with because I don't think any of these cheaper guys with guys out, I don't think we're getting any of these cheaper guys. Unless you want to go back to Logan Thomas at 35, my boy.
Yeah, my pool is only 2 this week on both sites. It's so weird how we got to this, but I spent a ton of time on tight end to start the week. So I'm not even going to be able to go over all the details, but I mean, I looked at all, routes run per snaps and blocking percentage and everything else at that matchup, everything. And I'm only playing Hunter Henry or Fells. That's it. I'm not doing MME this week, so I'm playing 3 to 5 lineups max per site. So I'm literally only playing Hunter Henry and Darren Fells. Yeah, assuming Aikens is out.
Both are in the same price range as Hooper. So if Hooper's the chalk, those are it's so easy to play those guys instead. I think.
I'll add in. Okay, this is going to be bad. You're not going to want to do this, but Tyler Eifert didn't practice again today, and James O'Shaughnessy is 2,600. 2,600. He has to do nothing. He can't hurt you. I'm fine with O'Shaughnessy in cash, assuming Eifert is out. He's gonna play a ton of snaps, and he's just gonna.
He does. That kind of sounds like the guy that scores the first touchdown, and you're like, this helps nobody. That kind of sounds like that guy, man. I'm not.
Well, this week it helps us in cash.
Yeah, no, I'm not playing him in cash. I didn't think he's a play.
Imagine clicking O'Shaughnessy in cash. I mean, we probably should be playing Tanya for his price. I don't know, man. I just, especially coming off a down game after he was so hot. But I don't know. I don't want to do it. We should. It's a good play. Are you guys going to play him?
I'd probably just play Henry in cash, honestly.
He's 100.
He's 100 cheaper.
Right.
Yeah, I would play Henry, I think. All right. I think we covered it pretty well. Before we
wait, no.
What?
We didn't do GPP plays.
All right. Okay.
Steph Diggs, dude. He is
good. This is perfect because I was gonna ask favorite tournament plays on the slate, and you already know who mine was, and it's Josh Allen. So we've already built the perfect stack of Josh Allen to Steph Diggs. This is perfect.
Thank you, dude.
I'll bring this bad boy back, and we can go Jamison Crowder and just go full game.
I love it. Does Trey White? Does he go to the slot or no? He won't follow Crowder. I don't think. Last time I checked, I don't think.
Yeah, they'll send some bum out and run him into Trey White all game would be my guess.
But do you realize if there's no John Brown, he didn't practice again on Thursday. If there's no John Brown, dude, Steph Diggs, you can guarantee he's going to get 10 plus targets. And yeah, it might be a blowout game, but like you got to get to 28 points or more to have it be a blowout.
Yeah,
And
I've brought
the
up
Jets
how
are horrible.
Josh Allen is so much better when they win. I mean, and we've seen this the last 2 weeks. Like they've lost, and he's not been good. But if you look at it, the numbers, like against the Jets week 1, they won 33 DraftKings points. Against Miami, 37 DraftKings points. Like he's so much better when they win. I love that stack. And literally, you want to talk about a stack no one's playing?
I know.
No one is going there with all these juicy
It's
games on the
so
slate.
elite. And dude, like, and again, Josh Allen's like a D-gaffer too. Like he doesn't care. He threw 16 targets, Steph Diggs' way against Tennessee. And by the way, what was it, a few games ago? He almost had 3 touchdowns in one game, man. They had 2 called back, Steph Diggs, on separate drives. Like, I don't know, man. Steph Diggs could go nuclear. So I love him.
Yeah, I like that as well. Bales, you have anybody you want to add in there?
No, I mean honestly, I do really like Crowder. That was very serious. It's not as much on FanDuel, on DraftKings where you get the full PPR. Like they're just gonna target him like crazy. And we already saw, one, we know that Buffalo's really bad against the slot, and 2, we saw week 1 Crowder really torched them for almost 30 DraftKings points, I believe. So I think that's a really solid one. I think we more or less talked about, like, obviously I like Chris Carson a lot. Aaron Rodgers, it's almost guaranteed I'm going to have him in some type of tournament just because it's going to be really hard to get up to him in cash. So that isn't really going to work. No, but I think I went over most of the players that I wanted to talk about.
Cool.
All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you watch us on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. Obviously, you can subscribe to the channel and you'll get a notification whenever we post a new video. You can check out dfskarma.com. Obviously, you saw on the intro screen $15 for core plays. I mean, most of the people that have paid for core plays, I mean, they've at least been able to pay off their subscription. Going for 7-0 on FanDuel this week. So hopefully we can get there. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys on the Sunday stream.